Educator, leader, royalty. Those are just a few words to describe Professor Jennifer Thomas. Nearly 40 years ago, she was Miss Howard and the Miss School of Communications. Now she's back teaching.
Howard is home, and I left Howard and had my first job in the industry literally 2 weeks after I graduated. So when I spent more than 20 years in the industry, I always found myself as the youngest, the only woman, and sometimes the only person of color in the newsroom, the only person that looked like me doing the things that I did. I knew that was problematic.
When Thomas left Howard, she was the first in several notable categories.
When I left Howard, I was the first, the youngest, and the only young black woman who was aspiring to be a producer in my newsroom. And 20 years later at CNN, I was the first, probably still the youngest even at that age, and the only black woman in my position as an executive producer.
Thomas was drawn to the journalism field as someone who always had a question.
I went into journalism because I was one of those curious students that had a lot of questions about what was going on in the world.
Thomas has earned the respect of everyone she works with.
We are colleagues, and we've been colleagues for about 4 years. You hear all your classic stuff like she's tough and, you know, she gives a lot of assignments. She does not accept late work. Now, that's no rumor. That's real. But then by the end of the semester, I hear that she's been people's best professor and they've learned the most in her class and how much they really appreciate her.
Students have described Thomas's teaching style as a tough one, but the title is one that she proudly adds to her collection.
Tough means making sure that students can easily transition from classroom to newsroom or to graduate school. Or if tough means making sure that students are confident in their ability and that they can succeed after they leave these hallowed halls of Howard University, then yes, I will gladly wear my tough adjective describing my name. I will wear that crown gladly, just as I wore the crown of Miss Howard.
The rich history and strong tradition of Howard University is what led Thomas to run for Miss Howard.
I ran for Miss Howard because I thought of what Howard University represented. We all know Howard represents legacy. Howard represents pride. Howard represents excellence. And when I was a little girl, the reason I chose to come to Howard is because every time I would flip through the pages of Ebony and Jet magazines, which I avidly read as a kid, everyone who was anyone was a thought leader, an educator, someone in political science or medicine. They all had Howard University attached to their name. So that made me want to come to Howard because I knew Howard was where the best people went.
Thomas is also a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
As a young girl in Omaha, Nebraska, I had some family members who were members of the sorority. But then when our family moved to the South, to Alabama, the women who were influential in our community, the women who made a difference, who I knew in my church and who were family friends, they were all members of AKA. And then when I was in high school, I was fortunate enough to be a debutante, and so we took part in a lot of the workshops that they did, a lot of the community service events. And so I was surrounded by these women of excellence, and that's what I wanted to learn more about. My AKA sisters have been there with me throughout the best and the worst times of my life. There's not a day that goes by that I don't talk to someone that I became friends with.
I'm Brock Morgan, HU News Service.